You're listening to Beat Autoimmune and Thrive, the podcast all about reversing and preventing autoimmune conditions so you can live your most vibrant life as soon as possible. We talk about autoimmune root causes, actionable solutions, and inspirational healing stories. I'm Palmer Kippola, and I used to have MS. Today, I'm an author, a speaker, a functional medicine certified health coach, a pickleball player, and nature lover who's helped thousands of people reclaim their health and their best lives. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome. I am delighted to be joined today by Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum, also known as Dr. Sandi. She is the founder and CEO of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, a collaboration with the Institute for Functional Medicine. Dr. Sandi is a leader in the field of health coaching education. An educator and licensed clinical psychologist for over 35 years, she was a pioneer in blending functional medicine principles with positive psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mind-body medicine. She's the author of Functional Medicine Coaching, Stop Panic Attacks in 10 Easy Steps, and How to Give Clients the Skills to Stop Panic Attacks. I am so thrilled to have you with me today, Dr. Sandi, to discuss a number of important topics, and I'll just list out the highlights here, including how people who are seeking to heal from autoimmune disorders can apply some powerful positive psychology techniques, how people can address anxiety and panic attacks, and what's so important about working with a health coach and what the future is like for health coaching as a profession. And these are all topics that are so near and dear to my heart. As you know, I'm a graduate of FMCA and a huge advocate for the program, which was both fantastic and rigorous. It gives me so much joy personally when I work with clients who heal from whatever autoimmune disorder they're dealing with, and then they go on to become a health coach themselves. So thank you for founding such an important program, Dr. Sandi. I am so grateful for you.
Oh, Palmer, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I am delighted to be here.
I'm so glad, and not a moment too soon. But I know we've got a lot to cover. I always love to start with stories. So can you share an abbreviated version of your story? How did you go from teaching to starting the FMCA program in your 60s?
Sure. Well, if you'd have asked me this many years ago, I would have said, well, there was something wrong with me. I was restless. I had ADD and I could not stay in one position. In fact, some of my friends have said, well, you're always reinventing yourself. And I like to now think of that as a good thing because it had to do with curiosity and wanting to go on to continue learning. And so I thought I would always be a school teacher. And I went from elementary education to special education, then went from a classroom teacher to teaching teachers at a local college. And as I was doing that, I started getting very interested in this field, which did not have a good name at the time, had no name, stress management or mind-body medicine. And I was teaching people breathing techniques. And I was doing these workshops, stress management for teachers, for example. I did a relaxation tape for children. And I was very interested in this whole field of mind-body medicine, but chose to go further with my education to get a doctorate in clinical psychology. And as I was going through that training and then became licensed as a clinical psychologist, I saw what that field was like, which was very, very much stuck in the past, stuck in past theories, stuck in helping people by going through a psychotherapy process where they were addressing their past. But I was very interested in the mind-body connection. So I was having panic attacks at the time. I had rainouts, which is this condition where your fingers turn white and then they turn blue. Now it's an autoimmune condition. And I found that I could close my eyes, I could slow down my breathing, I could imagine my fingertips warming and getting rid of, getting the blood in there. And I could also stop panic attacks And so I decided that I would focus on health psychology. And then for many, many years, I worked with people who had physical conditions, but I was called in as the psychologist not to talk about their relationship with their mother, for example, for 20 years. However, to teach them strategies. And that was a combination of helping them to look at the thoughts that were going on that were irrational and were keeping them stuck, as well as seeing this mind-body connection. I got very interested in biofeedback, did a controlled study working with kids with neurofeedback, kids with ADHD, and found how remarkably effective it was, as well as effective for things like migraine headaches, anxiety, a whole bunch of things. So I did that for quite some time, but I was always also interested in nutrition. I took a lot of courses there and then heard about functional medicine. And this was back in 2010 or so. And I took the training program through IFM, that's the Institute for Functional Medicine. And I was fascinated and started to incorporate that into my practice. And around that time, this was when I got certified. That was in 2013. I got certified as a functional medicine practitioner, as a psychologist. And I was hearing from a lot of people that they had gone through health coach training programs. And at the time, they just didn't feel quite prepared to go out and coach. And so that was when partnered with IFM to create a training program. And fast forward to today, we are celebrating our 10th year. We have trained close to 5,000 coaches. They are all around the world. You are one of them. And it is a field that is growing. And this is my mission. This is my purpose in life. And I started that when I was 65. And I had many people saying, oh, what do you need this for? You've never run a business of that magnitude. Just retire and you can travel and so on and so forth. But I said, no, I'm going to do this because this is what is so key. We have a health crisis, and it is, and that was back in 2014. It's gotten a whole lot worse since then, and since that time, I'm thrilled to see coaching become a real profession. It is no longer just a hobby. It is something that is growing, that is needed, that is recognized, and will continue to grow and just about to explode, I believe.
So inspirational to me, Sandi. I love that this is something that you created, founded this organization in your mid-60s. And we just need to touch on that for a moment. I mean, so many people are looking for purpose and meaning. And the fact that in our middle 60s, we can still have a huge mission and purpose. And there is zero signs that you are stopping. In fact, this is just the beginning, as I've heard you say.
Absolutely. That is so true. And one of my passions is inspiring, particularly women, that it is never too late. It is never too late you can train now for your non-retirement retirement. We know that the worst thing that can happen to people is when they retire and they don't have a mission and purpose and they are not tied to a community and they experience loneliness. And so when you have that love of what you're doing, that mission, that is so critical to your, not only your emotional well-being, mental well-being, but your physical well-being as well. And that means that when you create something like when I created something like this, I really became more and more committed to my health. It's non-negotiable. And first and foremost is strength training because I want to be strong. I want to be able to be a leader in this field. And in order to do so, I need to be physically strong and mentally strong. And that starts with lifting heavy weights.
Yeah. And this is an area I feel like we can go in so many different directions. And I want to talk about this now for a moment, because one of the things that you are known for is doing your 100 push-ups a day. Okay. That's not an exaggeration. And can you just please touch on maybe what you were able to do before you decided that you were going to get strong and then how you went about doing that. Because as you know, as women age, sarcopenia is real. We lose muscle mass. And here you are, an absolute inspiration because you are walking the talk. You are doing this.
Well, this started the push-ups. I was always doing push-ups and always doing some form of resistance training, but I wasn't real serious about it. And back like when I was 50, 60, I was very into yoga and Pilates, and I still am. And when I engaged in any kind of resistance training, it was for the wrong reasons. It was because I wanted to, remember one time when I was really doing a lot of weight training, and it was because I was going to be a mother of the bride, and I had a strapless dress, and I wanted to look good. I wanted to have good arms, and that's all well and good, but it's not when you have that intrinsic motivation, like you're doing this like you're brushing your teeth, it's non-negotiable because it's for bone health. It is for having the muscle that is going to be the vessel for the glucose that you are taking in. And we know metabolic health is so critical, and people lose so much muscle mass, and it's harder and harder to build muscle. And so that now is my motivation. So around the time of the pandemic lockdowns, I started to look at, because I had been going like to a Pilates class every day. I'd been going to the gym, doing some weight training, but half-heartedly. And I decided I am going to use this time to get really strong. And there's a difference between getting strong and building muscle, but I wanted to get strong. And so I started doing push-ups, and I just, I would do like 50, and then I would do 25 and 25 more. So I would get up to 100. And then I kept doing those. And sometimes it varies. Your body's different every day. So some days I would get up to 70 in a row, and then I would add on 30 more. And then I would say, okay, maybe I'll do 200. At the height of the lockdown, I was doing 300 a day, not at one sitting. I was breaking them up into 2 or 3 times during the day. And what I have recently changed about that is that I decided that I am going to be really strict about form. And so now I am looking at 10 to 12 sets. I can get up to 12. So I'm making myself go all the way down to the floor, because before that I was like half-heartedly, I would go down like halfway, 3/4 of the way, but just focusing on the number, like, oh, I got to 100. But now I started out, at first I couldn't even do one all the way to the floor, but or you're starting on the floor and then you push up and start that way. So I wanted to do a really good military style push up. And so I am now up to 12. I can do 12, and I do them to the point of collapsing. I can't do one more. And then I'll do those throughout the day so that I can get as many in as I can. But it's not just that, because you have to vary it. So I do a lot of squats. I do some goblet squats. I do what's called a sumo squat. I do the squat to press, and then find times during the day to do air squats. So every time I am waiting for my coffee, I will do 30 air squats. And then if I'm making a smoothie and I'm letting it go through the Vitamix, okay, I'll do 30 more. So I try and do a lot of squats during the day, and I still continue yoga, doing Pilates, and these are exercise snacks. We also need balance, and so I do a lot of work on balance, and as well as jumping. I think jumping is one of the best things we can do for bone health. Dr. Stacy Sims, who's a noted exercise physiologist, I love her work, and she says 10 minutes 3 times a week. You need to be jumping, and not just even bending your knees as you land, which we've been taught. She said like a pogo stick. You want to be just going up and down hard. So I've been incorporating that. Like every time I will go from room to room, I will just do a broad jump. I'll jump from one room to the next. And the other thing that I do that I I absolutely love, and that is ballet. So I'm never, in no way a ballerina, but I love that. I started when I was a little girl, never any good at it, but I take classes. Some of these are for older women. And it's just it's social. It is good for your brain, remembering those combinations, and it's good physical movement. And for me, it's like my meditation. So I'm a big fan of dance. I love tap dance, and but ballet for me is great. And it takes a while to even move, like, oh, I can hold in releve for, 1 second more than I did the day before, for example, and every day is different.
What you've just shared there is profound. And there are a few things that I just want to pull those threads a tiny bit. We don't necessarily have to talk about them further right now, but intrinsic motivation, that is so huge because when I talk about your reasons for wanting to be well, for people, and most the people that listen to this podcast and work with me are mostly women who are seeking to heal from autoimmune disorders. And the first thing that we talk about are your reasons why. What do you look forward to doing? It is that motivation that will pull you through some of the deepest, darkest times, some of the worst symptoms that you have, your reasons to keep going. And having that intrinsic motivation, not just to look good in a tank top, we all want to look good, right? That may not be as lasting. That might not be as big a reason, a motivator. So I love that you're touching on this. I want to age well for the rest of my life. I want to be strong. I don't want to have osteoporosis. I don't want to have to become sedentary. I don't want people to have to take care of me. That's what you're touching on. That is so beautiful. And I also love, and I'm just going to say the second thing that I love is how you break this down into tiny habits. Because sometimes we feel like when you mentioned 100 push-ups, I mean, I just say, whoa, that is insane. That's crazy. It's like somebody saying, I do ultra marathons. Well, you don't start out doing ultra marathons. You don't start out doing 100 push-ups. What you talk about frequently and what you share in Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, part of the learning is how to help people instill healthy habits. And by breaking them down into bite-sized pieces, these snacks, as you call them, it's doable, right?
Absolutely. Yes. It is critical, I think, to see that you start with one, and there are many levels. And so that's where the benefit of working with a health coach comes in. So, for example, with push-ups, in my ballet class, there are a lot of women. In fact, there's one woman who is in her 90s, so it is never too late. But we will do push-ups against the bar, or you could do them against the wall. So, I see these women, if that's all they could do in the class, because they don't lift heavy weights, but it's a place to start. Or you can do them on your knees. So there's always modifications, and then there's always someplace else to go. If I can do 100 push-ups to the floor, well, then maybe there's ways that you can, do them on one arm, or put a heavy weight on your back. There's always another level that you can reach for. And I think that is so critical to wherever we're looking in our lives, to say, I have more to achieve. And I think that is the key to healthy aging, where people have that mindset like, I'm done. I have my children, perhaps grandchildren. I had my career. I'm done. Now I'm just going to play pickleball or canasta, and which is great. I mean, I love both, and I think we don't want to discount the value of activities like that, primarily because they're social. And in the community where I live, they are known for having a social club. It's called Encore. And there are 300 women. They have activities just about every day. And you pick the one. They have walking groups. They have card groups. They have pickleball. They have ladies' night out, restaurant explorers. And there's always something. And it is that connection with other people. And the more we get into a digital world, the more we need that interaction. I belong to 2, now 3 book clubs. because it's the connection with other people. It's not so much reading the book, but it's being able to get together and share.
I love it. I love it. So important. There's so many things about healthy aging. And I think what we'll need to do is put a bookmark on that topic and have you back for a part two, Sandi, because this is just incredibly important. And I also want to put another footnote here. I play pickleball as a competitive player. So there are different ways of
Yes.
playing pickleball. There is going out to your rec club and being social. And there is not only nothing wrong with that, it is incredible for a long, vital life to have something with this kind of social connection. And there's opportunities for competitive play, which has been,
I
mean,
Yeah.
transformative to my life. You know, as somebody who was told I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, to be able to go out and play at this competitive level has been transformational. So I just want to say, if you haven't tried pickleball and you're listening or watching this, please give it a try. Even if you're a tennis player, I hope you have a ton of fun. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, because another thing that I love about you is the positive coaching side of what you do. And you have, and there is the Strengths Finder work that I learned about in Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, and that's huge. And I would love for you to introduce this concept of finding your strengths and how that can relate, especially if you're someone who is doing what you can to reverse or heal from an autoimmune disorder. Can you take that leap with me?
It is huge, and it's critical. Our mindset, how we interpret events, both internal as well as external events, makes all the difference. There's a field called psychoneuroimmunology, for example, that's based on this. And so, what are you telling yourself? And the medical world is based on what's wrong with you. It's all about finding a diagnosis. In psychology, it's even worse. It's you're broken, you're a victim of trauma, and it's very disheartening. As opposed to positive psychology. Positive psychology is about what's right. It's the scientific study of what's right, of how people thrive. What is a life worth living? What do we need? And we need positive emotions. We need to have joy every day. We need to have engagement, like you talked about pickleball. Well, that's a whole, I mean, the way you are approaching as a competitive player, you are engaged. Whereas someone else who is just doing it, just kind of going through the motions and might be thinking about something else the whole time. And having relationships that are meaningful, having meaning and purpose, as we spoke about earlier, and achievement. So you may have an achievement in pickleball. It is thrilling. I might have an achievement where, I did one more push-up than I did yesterday and got down to the floor a little bit more, or in whatever it might be. So we call that PERMA. That's the acronym. And how do you get there? It is through your strengths. So we all have strengths that they're traits that are part of the human condition. And it has to do with things like having courage, having gratitude, being able to appreciate something beautiful, being able to have humor is one, actually, as well as love of learning and curiosity. So these are the raw materials that we've all got that help us to thrive. And what happens is, with an autoimmune condition, often we get a diagnosis, we go to a doctor, they'll say, you need to be on this med for life, this is going to keep deteriorating. And it's this doom and gloom view, and then you start to see yourself that way. And that can inhibit your progress. And you are then feeling stuck. Whereas the opposite would be to, like, love of learn. I'm going to learn everything I can about how I can overcome this. I am going to, I'm curious what it would mean if I went on this particular diet that might be recommended. And so you apply those strengths to try out new behaviors, try out new ways of being, to actually have this sense that you see your future and you start to act for your future self. which is, okay, if I, order that now, what's that going to be? Will my future self like this? If you're, let's say, in a restaurant looking at a menu. And then it's being able to have that balance because we don't want to be so focused on, for example, our physical health that we're not able to enjoy some things in life. So it is waking up in the morning, and BJ Fogg says, today's going to be a good day. That's what my mother always said, to be able to use visualization. And you can do, and that's where that mind body piece comes in, where you can imagine something that you want to have happening in your body.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That's so beautiful. And there's so many, I love, and I was just going to finish that thought by saying there's so many positive things that we can do for ourselves. And I love the fact that this is scientific. It's not just airy fairy, like, oh, I'm going to be positive and think happy thoughts. There's actual science behind positive psychology. And I mean, we can even think of it in terms of the nocebo effect and the placebo effect. If your doctor is telling you there's nothing you can do except take medication, you're going to be on this for the rest of your life, and you believe that, well, then, as Henry Ford says, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So that psychoneuroimmunology, where our mind and what we believe actually becomes reality in our biology, is just profound. I mean, it's really, really profound. You mentioned an acronym, PERMA, and I don't know that you actually spelled it out. Can you tell me what PERMA stands
Sure,
for?
that's PERMA.
Mm-hmm.
That is the what we need for a life well lived. The P is positive emotions. The E is engagement or flow, like you with your pickleball. R is relationships. We need to have relationships that are meaningful. The M is meaning and purpose. What do we want to live for? And the A is achievement. It doesn't have to be big achievement like I need to get all A's. It can be, I made my bed this morning. I went for a little walk. And you focus on how can I bring these elements into my life? And that is a life well lived. And it always does boil down to these elements. So it is not eat this, don't need that, don't eat that. It is not micromanaging those kinds of things. It is more a sense that that this is how I'm going to create my day. Part of it comes from having a mindset of, there's a great book called The Gap and the Gain. It's by my friend Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. There's either or. You're either in the gap or the gain. And so the gain is you are focusing on what you have gained. You're looking backwards and where you are now. I might be, look back, 5 years ago, like, wow, I was, very different. We can look at people who were where they were many years ago, people who've achieved great things and how they've gone on, and they have changed. Circumstances have changed for them, for example. And the gap is where you're always coming up short. You're always measuring yourself against other people, or having that sense that I'll never do it. You have this imposter syndrome that you don't know enough, you don't have enough, that the people in your life aren't enough. And so that way of thinking does you in. It actually, at a cellular level, is inflammatory.
I think it's beautiful to have a framework like that and to contemplate, and I talk a lot about this, what you focus on expands. And you can focus on what's wrong, and you can just go on that downward spiral. And I wear this necklace, which is for those people just listening, it's an upward spiral. It's actually a wave. So it was a necklace created by a surfer on Maui. And I make sure that it's turned up, because I am reminding myself to create upward spirals, that I am responsible for that. And how do I do that? You can even reflect on what good is happening right now. What positive things are happening in your life right now? It doesn't have to be big. And I tell this to clients all the time, who are expecting huge transformations, like no pain at all. And this is why I encourage people to write things down, because sometimes we don't notice any change until we are 70% better. But this opportunity that you're talking about is just to reflect on What positive things can you notice right now? And it can be a tiny little shift. It doesn't have to be big.
Oh, absolutely. And I do want to point out that what we're talking about is not positivity at all costs. To not take a situation, there are things that are happening that you're experiencing that are not positive. They are not good. And you acknowledge that. And you also acknowledge that I have the strength to deal with it. I have dealt with many hard things before. I will deal with this and what comes, and having that sense that it's positive psychology acknowledges the whole human experience. So it's not like you are saying, I am special and I am unique and I can do whatever I want. Well, that's not realistic. But you can focus, I take ballet class, but I'm never going to be a ballerina. I'm never going to be on stage in point shoes dancing Swan Lake. So there's a sense you're acknowledging reality. At the same time, you are celebrating what in your life is joyful and how you can turn that around in your thinking so that you can tolerate. There's a great strategy, which I use all the time when I'm really upset at something. And then I think, okay, I get to be upset about this. I get to be upset, like, let's say, this morning, my Google password all of a sudden wasn't working. And I wear a continuous glucose monitor. I can say, oh, my blood sugar is like sky high because of the stress, like no matter what I did, it was. And so it would be if you get upset, and most of the times we are upset about things that in the long run, if we have perspective, aren't that like we won't remember these experiences down the road. But a way to get out of it, to snap yourself out of it in the moment is I get to be upset about this because I am so grateful that I can do a body scan and I'm sensing that my body's working at this moment. And because if there was something that was going on, then whatever minor thing I was getting all stressed, whatever I was having an argument with my husband about, oh, he shouldn't be talking to me that way. Well, that would all be meaningless. It would all disappear because, and I'm old enough at 74 to know a lot of people who aren't here anymore that, I knew and loved them. So I always think, well, I get the privilege of being upset about this because I don't have whatever condition it was that my friend had and passed away from. So, for example, or at the moment there's no, my loved ones are fine, and so you kind of say a prayer about that and let it go, whatever the stressful thing was. Even in terms of physical conditions, like I can tolerate this pain. I have this pain, and it is happening for me, not to me. And that can be very, very powerful.
Transformational, in fact. It is something that I encourage everyone. And it just, and again, I love the fact that you're saying that we're not being Pollyanna, we're not putting positivity on everything, we are acknowledging the reality, and we get to choose our perspective. And so what I encourage people, if they are able to see the gift in the autoimmune disorder, the faster you can see the gift in it, that this is happening for you, the faster I believe you can unwind from these conditions because you have that level of perspective and maybe a little bit of distance from it. So again, not Pollyanna, it is perspective, and it's really, really huge. I'm so grateful that you brought up the idea of this happening for me. Thank you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I'm moved by is this is about agency. This is about control and controlling what we can and letting go of the rest. And this will tie into anxiety and panic attacks because I feel like oftentimes, and many people have levels of anxiety. I mean, during the pandemic and afterwards, I saw levels of anxiety just skyrocket. And with symptom anxiety, things are just continually becoming higher and higher. And panic attacks are a level of anxiety that I believe a lot of people feel like there's nothing that can be done about this. I don't have any control over this. It's something that's happening to me. My body this is either betraying me or I don't know what to do. I don't know how to control this. And this is work that you've done profound amount of work on for yourself and in writing this book and helping other people. So can you share a little bit about your own story with panic attacks and how you got to this and what people can do? I think that would be hugely helpful.
Sure. This was when I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and I would get panic attacks where I would think I was dying. I'd have to go to the emergency room. Of course, I was hyperventilating, but I always thought it was a heart attack. I thought I couldn't breathe and I'm going to pass out. I have a heart attack. And I remember once I had to be taken in an ambulance to the hospital. And so then I started taking some workshops and started learning some relaxation techniques. So this was number one, that it can be controlled with breathing. But panic attacks is this sense that of impending doom. Either you think you're going to pass out, you're dying, at the most extreme, that is what you're thinking about. And the body, it is reacting in a normal way. Why am I saying that? The body is perceiving danger and it's setting off an alarm. And I like to describe it as like a home alarm, if you can picture that. You've pressed the home alarm, but it's a false alarm. But what happens if you have an alarm system where you live and you press that button? And now, in a little while, you've got, fire department, police, they are all there. They're not going to leave in an instant. They're going to check every nook and cranny to make sure it's safe and it's all clear. And it was just a false alarm. And so when people have a panic attack, you have this, like the sirens are going off and you think you can't breathe. Every system of the body either shuts down or it gets sped up, like your heart rate's going to increase. Your breathing gets altered. Blood flow changes. You can't make decisions because to fight or run away from danger, you don't need to. That's a reflex action. Well, it happens like an instant because our bodies are acting intelligently to keep us safe, just like that fire alarm. You press it, it's an instant reaction to the emergency team that's going to be out to keep you safe. And so people may they may know that, take breathing slowly, or, slow it down. I need to relax. But it takes a while for the body. It's like you go into a room, you turn on the light, it's instantly on. But coming down from a panic attack is like room by room shutting off each light. And one thought that I'm still not feeling good. And so that it is what causes the panic attack is the thought. For me, it was, I'm dying. I'm going to pass out. That thought was a shower of chemicals. It triggers the alarm system. So what do? Well, you say, I am in a panic. I am not, I will soon slow down everything and recover. It'll take a while. And great, I'm going to have an opportunity to practice. What am I going to practice? I'm going to practice my belly breathing. I'm going to notice where I'm tensing my muscles. I'm going to notice my posture. I am going to focus on letting those thoughts that I'm safe, because it's either safety, danger. You have changed those thoughts. And then what works very well is distraction. So turning on the TV doesn't do it because that's kind of passive. But distracting yourself with something engaging. There was a woman I saw when I was in clinical practice. Her name was Seal. She was this adorable woman, older woman, and she had panic attacks so frequently. She would call me up and just, I got to go to the hospital. I'm dying. I can't stand. I'm so sick. What's wrong with me? And I would say, Seal. She had a house that she was with lots of closets and drawers. She'd lived there for many, many years. Seal, let's choose a closet that you're going to start cleaning out some things. Okay, I think this one in the basement. Okay. I want you to put two piles, like what you're going to keep, what you're going to give to the kids, what you're going to, donate. And so she called me back maybe an hour later. I feel so much better. I got so involved in looking at these things and, I'm fine now. And so having something that pulls your focus, that where you have to concentrate, there's a lot of strategies for doing that. But it starts with that confidence. First, it's the confidence that my heart's strong. I'm not, my body is just acting in an intelligent way, thinking I'm in danger. So I have to flood my body with this relaxation response, and I have to have my mind flooded with thoughts of safety and not danger. So
I
and
love
you
that. I
keep
love that.
practicing, and then the body knows. And the more you practice, new neural pathways are formed, so it becomes easier and easier to do it. Sometimes initially a guide, like a health coach, where you have somebody talk you through. Going through that can be very, very effective with someone guiding you. And pretty soon you might be talking about something, or they might be asking you questions where you have to think, maybe mentally challenging ones, or let's plan let's plan some recipes. Let's start to think about something that's going to keep you engaged. So there's all kind. Again, it's personalized. People will land on one or two things that are really effective, but it starts with the sense that I am absolutely in control. The other thing I need to point out is that when I was having these panic attacks, I was binging on sugar like nobody's business. And so that my diet was all out of whack. So I wasn't having the essential nutrients that are responsible for keeping you in balance and having a calming effect.
That's huge. I mean, there's so much to living in a low inflammation lifestyle. And I think, as you wisely pointed out, it's really binary. I mean, it's either stress or relaxation. There's not really a whole range of choices. And to be able, because not everybody is going to be experiencing a panic attack, and maybe some people have or do, and it's super, super scary. It feels like it's out of your control. But to be able to calm yourself, to come back to the breath, to really just comfort yourself in knowing that this too will pass. And I have skills. I have skills. I mean, maybe you get Dr. Sandi's book on how to stop a panic attack. If you are dealing with panic attacks, have these as resources so that you know how to respond in the moment where you feel flooded. You feel like you're in this stress reactivity. I mean, my mentors and everyone, the heroes in medicine, like Herbert Benson, was he the father of the stress response?
The relaxation.
The relaxation response. I mean, it's still good today. And Lissa Rankin and all of these people and science confirms that healing only happens in this relaxation response. And that's the counterbalance to the always on stress reaction mode, but we have to proactively practice. So having these tools, Dr. Sandi, I feel is so huge for people to be able to practice them before they get into a panic situation. Would you agree with that, or do you have
absolutely
recommendations?
Yes, a lot of it hinges on anxiety is in the future. Anxiety is what if. You're thinking, what if this happens? What if this, whatever that might be, it's typically in the future, whereas depression tends to be not letting go of something that happened in the past, where you're irrationally concluding, I'm a failure, I'll never do, I keep screwing up, making a lot of mistakes, whatever that might be. It's the sense of being tied to the past. And while all we have is the present tense, and we get there through our senses. At the moment, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I can touch, I can feel, I can smell. And you ask yourself, well, where's the evidence? If I was on trial and where I was a witness, where is that concrete evidence that what you are thinking could happen? It could happen, but how do you know for sure? 100% certainty that this is going to be the outcome. And 9 times out of 10, it isn't. But you focus on that it's an irrational conclusion that something will be bad that's going to happen in the future. But there's too many variables for you to know that. And so you say, or even if it does, I have right now, I have this moment. How do I want to be using my time this moment? How is this serving me to have this worry?
Beautifully, beautifully said. I love that so much. And now I want to segue into health coaching, because this is so near and dear to me. And again, for people that are able, even when they are not 100% healthy, they might have a vision of their future where they're actually helping other people. And I love it so much when someone sets that as a goal for themselves and decides that they too are going to become a health coach and they talk with me about that. It just warms my heart because this is the ripple effect in motion. This is the opportunity to give back because maybe you've gone through your own healing journey and now how can you help others? So please talk with us about functional medicine coaching, why it's so important, and what you think the future holds.
A coach is, when you study to become a coach, you undergo a personal transformation. And in every encounter you have with your clients, you are transformed as well. It is an incredibly deep, important relationship. So functional medicine coaching helps people tell their story, learn about the root causes. So rather than accepting the status quo, which is where you have maybe 10, 15 minutes with your doctor, how are you doing? Do you, on all your meds, refills, and that's it. And you leave feeling like, oh, what happened to bedside manner? And I remember in the 50s, 60s, when we had our one physician, they were with you for a long time. They were solo practitioners and they knew you. They knew your name. They made eye contact and you had a relationship and they had bedside manner. And that was very important. We've lost that. And I believe coaches are bringing back bedside manner because they're trained to listen. They're trained in empathy so that you feel heard and understood. They are there with you on this journey. And when you study to be a coach, you learn these skills. And so not only are you learning to help people become empowered to take charge of their health, but you're also a better communicator with your own family, your colleagues, your friends. And it just feels really good. You feel like you're making a difference. And so many people come to FMCA for the health crisis themselves. They're feeling like now they want to give back. And that actually happens to be key to their healing. And I've seen this over and over again, where they are now feeling like, yeah, I can support people. And that is so healing, especially if you're running groups. It's very, very incredibly, I should say it's very profound, the changes you undergo as well as what you see happening in the people you are working with. And fortunately, we are seeing that this profession has just exploded. It will continue to do so. More and more organizations are hiring health coaches. So there are just more and more opportunities. We get people who have a background in healthcare, but many who do not. Many are career changers. They may come from a corporate world. And we have many people who are planning for their retirement years. They are planning like they already have had their high-powered career and they feel like, or they're in a profession like, yeah, I don't want, I was talking to someone the other day. She is a stay-at-home mom now. She had worked as a nurse in a hospital. And she said, yeah, when my kids are older, I don't want to go back to being a nurse on the hospital floor. I want to be a health coach because that will be a way that I can still be in the field, but not at the same level that I was when I was much younger, just starting out.
It's so beautiful. So you have to describe where people can find out more about Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, affectionately abbreviated as FMCA. Mm-hmm. So where can people go?
They can go to the website, which is functionalmedicinecoaching.org. And we also have an Instagram, which is Functional Med Coach. Personally, I'm Dr. Sandi on Instagram, DrSandi. And we are happy to have you. We have people from all walks of life, again, whether they're in healthcare or not, and all ages. And what I love about this is that it's a certificate. You don't have to go back to school and spend a lot of money getting a degree and spending all that time to in higher education. This is something accessible for all.
So it is 12 months. Is that correct? Is it still 12 months?
It's 12 months, all online.
It's all online. And a lot of the learning is done in cohort style. And I absolutely loved it because we had our own small group within the context of a larger group where the curriculum is rigorous. I mean, it is a wonderful amount of information, both about functional medicine. So you will learn the principles of functional medicine. You'll learn about the scientific benefits of positive psychology. and all of these things that Dr. Sandi is talking about, and maybe share some other things that you think are valuable about the program, Sandi.
Yeah, so it is, you will learn the basics of you will learn a lot about functional medicine, functional nutrition, psychology of eating. You will learn mind-body medicine. That is what we talked about in terms of how to integrate all of those. You will learn how to, if you choose to, how to start your own business, how to work with doctors. We also have an alumni program, and many people stay on in our alumni program. I have office hours. They get to ask me anything. We have workshops for building a business as a coach, or how to work on a medical care team. And so I'm excited about our future growth. I also want to point out that I do have a book that will be coming out. We don't have an exact date yet, but it is called Your Health Coach Will See You Now. And that is where I go through all of the research on why coaching works, why it is effective, and why it is so badly needed given our broken healthcare system.
Yeah. Not a moment too soon. We are in a world of hurt when it comes to chronic disease all over the world. And in the States, I understand it's like 1 in 3 people has either an autoimmune diagnosis or autoimmune symptoms, at least one. And there is so much that people can do to take their health back, and people are going to need help. And tell me what your vision for the future is, Sandi.
Yeah. My vision is that there will be a health coach in every medical practice, starting with primary care. And this is something that is not far-fetched, but it is only a matter of time before we have insurance reimbursement. There are already codes in place. So if you are a primary care doctor or a specialty doctor, and you have, there are certain visits that are through Medicare, for example, and you can have a health coach in your practice that is conducting those sessions. And so we will see tremendous growth there. And I think it's really very, very exciting.
It is very exciting. And this is a vision that you put in place at age 65. I just want to come back to that again, because one of my mentors, Walter Bortz, who is unfortunately no longer with us, wrote a book called Dare to be 100. And he had a quote that he said, "It is never too late to start, and it is always too soon to stop." And I just love that. There is never a moment that is too late to do something that you're passionate about. And Dr. Sandi, this has been such an important and beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful for you and what you've created. That's an intrinsic part of my life and has brought so much joy and healing for people. So I'm so thankful for you.
Well, thank you, Palmer. It's been an honor to talk with you, and a joy to have you as a student, now graduate of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. You're doing wonderful things in the world.
Thank you. And like I said, I would love to have you back for a part 2. So I look forward to that as well. Thank you so much for being with me today. Take good care.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and if you feel inspired, please leave a quick review so other people can find it too. Now, if you want to beat autoimmune and thrive, make sure you sign up for my free video training at freeautoimmunetraining.com. That's freeautoimmunetraining.com, and watch the first video right away. Take good care. Bye for now.